hold up. Before we dive into this rabbit hole that's about to blow your mind, let me ask you something. What if I told you that Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't just drown in Costa Rica? What if I told you that his death was the final move in a chess game that's been playing out in Hollywood for decades? And what if the person who's been trying to warn us about this hidden war for over 10 years just confirmed everything we suspected in the most chilling tribute you'll ever hear? Because Eddie Griffin's response to Malcolm's death wasn't grief, people. It was a military debriefing. And once you hear what I'm about to tell you, you'll never look at celebrity deaths the same way again. Let's rewind to 1996. Two young black actors, Malcolm-Jamal Warner and Eddie Griffin, are about to star in a sitcom called Malcolm and Eddie. On paper, it sounds like a dream come true, right? Two talented comedians getting their own show, a platform to showcase positive black entertainment, a chance to break barriers and build generational wealth. But here's where it gets twisted. These two men couldn't stand each other. I'm talking genuine, real-life tension between them. Yet before every single taping, they would pray together. Think about that for a second. Two people who genuinely disliked each other, putting aside their personal beef to ask for divine protection before going to work. Why would they need protection? What were they so afraid of? Because what Malcolm and Eddie thought was going to be their big break turned out to be their introduction to a war zone. Every script became a battlefield. Every episode was resistance against a system that wanted them to perform like what Eddie would later call trained monkeys. They weren't just making television. They were fighting for their dignity, their masculinity, and their souls. And here's the kicker. That should make your blood boil. The show was deliberately cut at 88 episodes. 88! Just 12 episodes short of the magic number needed for syndication. Well, that's not coincidence. That's sabotage. Because both Malcolm and Eddie refused to stay in their place. Now, while most people saw Eddie as just another comedian making jokes about Hollywood, those paying attention realized something deeper was happening. His comedy specials weren't entertainment. They were intelligence reports from behind enemy lines. For over a decade, Eddie has been systematically documenting what he calls the machine's control mechanisms. And it's not just about controlling image or career trajectory. We're talking about controlling money, controlling future opportunities, and most importantly, controlling the ability to build independent wealth and influence. Eddie laid out the rules of engagement with terrifying clarity. You can fight, but you can't win. You can resist, but the machine has bigger weapons waiting. And if you become too dangerous, if you expose too much truth, if you threaten their control over the narrative, well, the machine has what Eddie calls a final solution. And no, that phrase choice wasn't accidental. Throughout his career, Eddie documented the systematic emasculation of black men in Hollywood. The pattern was always the same. Break down masculinity by forcing degrading performances, reward compliance with money and fame, and eliminate those who refuse to play ball. He talked about the dress wearing, the conditioning, the psychological warfare designed to break down black male identity and replace it with profitable caricature. But Eddie wasn't the only one paying attention. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was taking notes too. And somewhere along the way, something changed in Malcolm. Gone was the diplomatic, measured Theo Huxtable persona. In his final year, Malcolm's Instagram became a weapon against psychological programming. His posts weren't just poetry, they were direct callouts of systematic programming targeting black Americans. He exposed how the entertainment industry deliberately promotes degrading content to condition black audiences, and he started naming names. He called out the puppet masters controlling the narrative. The timing of Malcolm's transformation couldn't have been more dangerous. We're talking about a moment when Diddy is facing federal charges, when Jeffrey Epstein connections are being exposed, when systematic corruption is being investigated at the highest levels of power. Malcolm positioned himself as a credible witness to decades of psychological warfare, and that made him incredibly dangerous to people with everything to lose. Let's talk pattern recognition for a minute, because this is where things get really dark. Michael Jackson died while planning an unprecedented comeback that would have given him complete control over his catalog and image. Prince died fighting to regain ownership of his masters and expose industry corruption. Whitney Houston died just as renewed interest in her story of industry abuse was reaching a fever pitch. The pattern is always the same. Black entertainers who achieve independent power or threaten to expose the system get hit with career-destroying scandals, and if that doesn't work, they end up dead. The timing is never accidental. Now, let's examine Malcolm's final video, because this is where it gets absolutely heartbreaking. This wasn't a man planning a vacation. This was a man living on borrowed time, trying to find reasons to smile while knowing what was coming. The forced positivity, the desperate attempt to appear normal, the promise to be back soon, it reads like someone saying goodbye without being able to actually say goodbye. 3 days later, Malcolm-Jamal Warner is found dead in Costa Rica waters. Official cause?
cause? Accidental drowning. No witnesses, no foul play, just another tragic loss that conveniently silences a truth teller. But here's where Eddie Griffin becomes our smoking gun. His tribute to Malcolm wasn't typical celebrity grief. Listen to the language he used. Military terminology throughout. Warrior, went to war, Hollywood machine. This wasn't someone mourning an unexpected loss. This was someone confirming that Malcolm died fighting the exact battle Eddie had been documenting for years. The immediate, raw response, unlike any typical celebrity condolence. It read like someone who'd been expecting this call for years. And there's another layer to the story that makes it even more tragic. Michelle Thomas, Malcolm's co-star from A Different World. For 27 years, Malcolm used her memory as his moral GPS. Every decision, every career choice, every moment of compromise or resistance was filtered through one question. What would Michelle have done? Michelle Thomas was known for her integrity and her refusal to compromise her principles, even in an industry that demanded it. In his final year, Malcolm embraced the kind of uncompromising truth-telling that Michelle would have been proud of, and it cost him everything. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like conspiracy theory nonsense. But here's the thing about conspiracy theorists. They're pattern recognition experts, not paranoid fantasists. And in an industry where systematic abuse has been exposed at every level, where Jeffrey Epstein's connections run deep, where Diddy's federal charges are revealing decades of corruption, the death of a credible witness is never accidental. Malcolm was eliminated because he became too dangerous to the narrative control machine. His podcast interviews, his Instagram poetry, his willingness to name names and expose systematic oppression, all of it threatened a system that depends on keeping Black minds and narratives under control. The machine doesn't just want compliance, it demands it. And when compliance isn't forthcoming, elimination becomes the only option. Eddie Griffin's tribute serves as both obituary and battle cry. It confirms that the war is real, that the casualties are mounting, and that the machine will eliminate anyone who threatens their control over Black minds and narratives. Malcolm's death proves Eddie's most chilling prediction. Nobody leaves Hollywood clean. Truth-tellers who refuse to stay silent don't get to leave at all. But here's what the machine didn't count on. Eddie's confirmation ensures that Malcolm's death won't be forgotten or dismissed as another tragic accident. The pattern is now documented, the methods are exposed, and for those willing to see, the evidence is overwhelming. Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't drown accidentally in Costa Rica. He was eliminated by a system that couldn't afford to let him continue speaking truth to power. The war continues, the machine claims another warrior, but the confirmation is complete. And that might be the most important victory of all, because you can't fight what you can't see. And Eddie Griffin just made sure we can all see exactly what we're dealing with. Malcolm's final battle wasn't in vain, because his death just woke up an army of people who now understand that this isn't entertainment, this is warfare. And the machine just showed us exactly how far they're willing to go to maintain control. Rest in power, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Your final act of defiance was refusing to die in silence.